In this video, we're going to continue working on our Nissan Frontier truck that was rolled on its side. In the last video, we mounted our replacement door to basically check out the geometry of the cab to make sure that nothing got tweaked or moved, and to my relief, everything checked out just fine. Then I went ahead and moved on to the back of the bed of the truck where I worked out a lot of the large dents with the hammer. And then with the help of the spotter tool, I fine-tuned all of the areas that still had some of those smaller dents, and I knocked down all of the smaller highs to get the metal as flat as possible in order to get everything ready for body filler work. Main areas that had to get metal worked were concentrated toward the back of the bed of the truck, and we also had some more trouble spots on the bottom of the driver door, and a couple of good-sized dents on the cab corner that I also had to address. At this point, all of the metal work is done and everything turned out great, just as I expected. So now all of these areas are ready to accept some body filler, and there are also a couple of other things I want to fix in this video. The following day, I figured I would get the inside of our replacement door prepped and painted, but first all of the trim, the rubber seals, the glass, and basically everything else that I don't want to get painted would have to get removed off of the door first. Removing a lot of these items just to get them out of the way doesn't take a whole lot of time, but in the end it makes a big difference in the quality of your paint job, and it makes the end result look more professional. Once the window regulator unbolted and removed, getting the glass out is just a breeze. And even though at this point I'm not painting the outside of the door, I still want to remove all of the trim because I don't want it to get covered with the overspray. Now with the door fully stripped, I basically just gonna use some Scotch-Brite, and I like using this stuff called Final Sand. It's basically a soapy, gritty paste, so it's got some grit to it, like it's got a crushed sand in it. I put some of it on a Scotch-Brite, get the Scotch-Brite wet, and then I just go around the entire area that needs to get painted. Final Sand is great. It cleans the surface by cutting through the dirt, grease, and grime on the surface of the panel, and along with Scotch-Brite pad, it roughens up the existing clear coat, turning it from shiny to matte. This way the paint would have a slightly rough surface to bite into. I've been using this stuff for the past 20 years with great results and swear by it. If you'd like to get yourself some, I will leave a link to it in the video description down below. You can even use that stuff in the kitchen to brighten up those charred pots and pans. So the door is prepped and ready, so we're just about ready to shoot, but the last thing we gotta do is gonna use some wax and grease remover to basically remove any contaminants that may still be present on the door that may cause some issues in the finish. So we obviously want to eliminate that. Saturate a rag and go to town. Get everything nice and wet. Right after you put the wax and grease remover on, you want to follow up with a dry cloth or rag and just wipe everything off nice and dry and clean. The reason this step is so important is because, as a name would suggest, wax and grease remover would remove any traces of wax or grease that may still be present on the panel, and that's the last thing you want. Because if you lay any paint down over the surface that hasn't been properly cleaned, then there's a good chance that you'll get some fish eye in your finish. Paint fisheye would show itself as a small round-shaped defect that can have a crater in the center. It tends to show itself as you apply the coating on the surface or immediately after the surface has been coated. That's because paint products cannot stick to wax or grease, so they will rescind from it. Also, try to avoid touching any of the panels that are ready to be painted with bare hands because you may have some oils on them. If that oil transfers over, you will have issues guaranteed. And after wax and grease remover, the very last step is a tack cloth. It will basically pick up any dust particles or any fuzzies that your rag or your paper towel left behind. It is an absolute final step before you can start laying down some paint or sealer or whatever it is that you're doing.
Before I put down any base coat, I'm first going to lay down a coat of sealer over the surface that's gonna get painted. Sealer creates a watertight sealed barrier between the prepped surface and a top coat. You're also reducing a chance of solvent lifting or other chemical reactions when using a sealer. Top coats, such as base coat or clear coat, are mixed with solvents to reduce and activate them. These solvents can penetrate through the primer and react with the old paint. This reaction usually looks like the acid eating the paint. It's called paint lifting, but using a sealer eliminates that from happening. Sealers are also adhesion promoters. So basically, sealer acts as a coat of glue between the original paint that's already on the vehicle and the new paint that's being applied. It creates a perfect bed for the base coat. By using a sealer, you increase the life of your paint job and reduce the chance of paint failure. Therefore, I highly recommend it.
Obviously, if you guys have painted in the past, then a lot of these steps are basically a no-brainer. But I want to make these videos for everybody, even for guys that never held a paint gun in their hands and are total noobs when it comes to this.
Normally, I just put down one medium wet coat of sealer. The only time I ever do 2 coats is whenever I get ready to spray the front bumper cover or the very front of the hood. That second coat does make a difference on the front of the car by helping to prevent a lot of the rock chips. And when it comes to applying base coat, I will normally put down 2 to 3 coats, basically just making sure that I have complete coverage. For the quick rinse between the base coat and clear coat, I quickly run some lacquer thinner through the gun until the fluid that comes out of the tip turns clear. That way I know that there is no color pigment left inside of the gun. And as long as the stream of lacquer thinner that comes out of the tip of the gun is nice and even and doesn't seem to be obstructed in any way, then I know that the gun is clean enough for me to put in some clear and start laying it down. With clear, I normally lay down 2 coats. First coat is a bit on the drier side, and then once it sets up after about 10 or 15 minutes, I will lay down second coat, and I like to lay it out nice and wet to where it looks just like glass. And then I'm done. And just in case if you're wondering whether my neighbors love me or not, the answer is yes. Yes, they do.
All right, now let's go ahead and fix this bumper. And by that I mean I'm gonna go ahead and fix the center metal piece because all of that flexed inward when the truck rolled on its side. The day we got the truck, all of this was actually pushed in a lot more, and I had to physically grab it by hand and just kind of bend the metal bumper back because we couldn't even turn the wheel because there was no room between the bumper and the tire. It looks better already, but the thing is, I know that it's not right. Now, how do we figure out where this bumper is supposed to be in relation to the rest of the truck? Well, let's go ahead and take some measurements. We're gonna use our good side as a reference. If I get into the wheel well, I have to find a point of reference somewhere in there. Let's go ahead and use this hole right here because I have the same corresponding hole in the other frame rail on the driver's side of the truck. So if I hook the tape in and just run it out to the bottom, so the very bottom of the metal part of the bumper, I'm 41 centimeters and 3 millimeters, or 16 1/4 inch. And then the top of the bumper, I'm right at 19 3/4 inch. Let's go to the bed side. And on this side, at the very top, we are right at 19 3/4, just like on a good side. And on the bottom, we're at 14 3/4 of an inch, and we should actually be right where my finger ends, at 16 1/4. So the bottom got to come out probably about a good 1.5 inches. So we're basically good at the top, but the bottom is short. And one of the reasons why it is because we got this big old dent in here, and all of that is sucking the whole bottom of the bumper in. So I bet you as I start beating all of this metal out, some of this will come back, but in the end I will still have to make another pull to get the bottom back into spec.
Guys, here's the deal. This is my son's truck, and since he's still in high school, his funds are really limited. Therefore, buying a replacement bumper for about $250 to $300 was out of the question for him, considering that this bumper is not totally trashed. I told him that since this bumper is chrome and it's not getting painted after the repairs are done, that means I won't be able to use body filler to fix all of the minor imperfections. Therefore, this bumper will not be perfect, and he is okay with that. I personally always aim for perfection, but in this case, since this bumper will not be perfect, don't judge me too much. I figured I would start out with the dent in the center of a bumper that was actually covered by a plastic cover. It's always good to practice on something like this, something that won't be visible later on. So this way you can figure out how much force you have to apply with the hammer to make the metal move. Because these bumpers are made of much thicker metal than your doors or your quarter panels would be. Normally trying to pound one of these dents out with a large hammer through a wooden block normally doesn't work out too well, so you gotta start beating the metal directly with a hammer. And as I said, it is not perfect, but it is definitely better than what it was. And now, since I got the feel for this thickness of the metal, I can start working out the main area that I wanted to fix. The way this bumper flexed, instead of having one large dent, it actually did have an area that was protruding outward, so I gave it a few love taps with the hammer to basically bring that high spot down. And now I can start working this dent out from the backside. Nothing really special about it, just basically beat it until the panel is flat. Some of these bumper tabs were also bent, so I figured while I'm down here, I'll go ahead and get them straightened out. Just a few minutes into it and things are already looking much better. Just a few more finishing touches and I think it's about as good as I'll be able to get this thing. And you know what? It doesn't look that bad. Now we're gonna reattach the plastic cover back to the metal part of the bumper just to get things back in one piece.
So this straight rod came from the good side of the bumper, and this is the rod that came from the bed. This is a rod that keeps the bottom of the metal part of the bumper attached to a frame rail, and when this side of the bumper flexed, it just really bent the crap out of that. But this rod is just fine. I'll bend it back.
Now with the bumper back on, it is time to remove the paint in all of the areas where I will be applying some body filler. In the next video, I will block out all of this body filler and I will show you guys what it takes to make this bodywork look perfect. Until then, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to hit that like button because it helps out the channel, and I'll be seeing you in the next video here real soon.